All right, here's the situation. Your business is developing and you're on the verge of considering getting your first official office space. Should you go for it? What are the pros and cons? Welcome to this week's video. All right, I should put a little disclaimer before we go down this rabbit hole. This video is totally subjective. I don't use AI to write these scripts or anything because I do want to keep it personal and I want to share my thoughts and experiences. So just take my opinions with a grain of salt. There is more than one way to build a business. Today, I just want to share with you how I have done it. All right, so for you go-getters, I'll go ahead and give you a summary up front here. Let's start with the pros. Having an office gives you the opportunity to build your company culture. You get to identify your brand's personality, and then you get to bring that personality to life. It's also great for conducting meetings. On the cons, you're gonna need the cash flow to support this added expense of having a lease. A lease is one thing, but there are quite a few additional expenses like utilities, internet, insurance, and furniture. Finally, a con would be having to move. If things go well, you will likely be shopping again in a few years. All right, there's your pros and cons right up front. So the looming question is, when is the right time to lease an office space? So let me tell you about what I did. In 2021, LaunchKit was in this exact position. I was running the business from my one-bedroom apartment downtown Grand Rapids. I lived at 20 Fulton East. Things were going well. I had projects to work on. We were mostly doing brand development, web design, and photo video projects. Those were our core services. And I was fulfilling most of these services myself at the time. And I was having this internal debate about whether I should hire an employee or get an office. I have many more thoughts on this topic. I'll probably make a separate video on it. Anyways, I decided to hire LaunchKit's first staff member. It was the right move because it allowed us to generate additional revenue and then we could afford an office space comfortably. When you get to a place where you want to begin hiring staff, building company culture, and conducting meetings with clients and customers, that's how you know it's the right time to go for the office. If those items are relevant to you and you want to go ahead and get that office space, what are the benefits? Let's go ahead and get into it. In my mind, getting that first office space really put LaunchKit on the map. Quite literally, it did. We were able to have a Google Maps listing. This was the stamp of this business being my total focus. I was all in on this. I wanted to transition from being a solopreneur providing a service to a business owner that was focused on building a company. I had hired my first staff, Michael, a graphic designer. We worked together from my one-bedroom apartment, coffee shops, co-working spaces, and I was ready to move forward in getting office space. So let's go ahead and break down some benefits. Number one, meetings. When we would meet with clients, I would have them come to my apartment building where I'd have meetings in the common area lobby. And it was honestly a great bridge that allowed me to conduct business, generate revenue in those early days, but I definitely craved having our own space where we had more control over the environment and client experience. Having an own office space allows you to do that. The second benefit is going to be culture. In a post-COVID era where much of the work is done remotely these days, I was still craving an office to call home. I've always admired how companies like Google and Steelcase and LinkedIn have created these office environments that foster creativity and collaboration, and I really wanted that for LaunchKit. When you work from a coffee shop, you're basically taking on the culture of that coffee shop, which can be great, but if you want to build your own vibe, you're going to need your own environment. So that's the second benefit, getting the opportunity to build your own culture. Third benefit, I would say, is personality. I believe that successful businesses and brands have personality. They're the ones that you recognize their commercial without even seeing their logo. I had seen brands achieve this distinct personality, but honestly, I had no idea on how to actually pull that off. Well, 3 years later, I can tell you that having your own space really does help with this. You're quite literally bringing your vision to life via the environment that you build. An environment embodies your brand's personality. People walk here into the LaunchKit office and say, wow, it looks just like I'd expect it to. So that's the third benefit, is the opportunity to build a personality around your business and bring it to life. All right, so getting an office sounds great and all, but what are some cons that we should be aware of? First up, cash flow is totally necessary. First and foremost, you need a business model that generates consistent cash flow. And this cash flow is necessary to ensure that you can pay rent. If you're struggling to pay rent, you will not be in the right headspace to think about growing your business. And I recognize that cash flow isn't necessarily a con. I just wanted to point out that cash flow is critical for being able to have an office. You just want to ensure that you're building a business model that isn't too volatile in the how and when you collect payments. All right, second con is going to be the additional expenses that you incur. This is a necessary evil of getting an office space. You are going to take on additional expenses besides just the lease. To name a few, to give you an idea here, at LaunchKit, these are some things we budget for. So So first of all, furniture, we spent around $15,000 to furnish this 700 square foot space. Parking, we spend about $600 a month on parking passes. Office food, beverages, supplies, we spend about $250 a month here. The internet, Comcast, it's about $200 a month. We have travelers insurance, about $125 a month. And utilities are about $50 a month. These are all great and necessary expenses. I just wanted to point out and give some insights to the additional expenses that'll incur along with your lease. The third con is having to move if things go well over the next year or so, and you'll likely have to move and expand. It's a great problem to have. It's just a time expense on your calendar though. So at the time of recording this, it's June 18th, 2024, and this is currently where LaunchKit's at. We've been here in our first office for 3 years now. It's been great. I would pick this space again if I had the opportunity. But we now have 5 full-time staff members and more coming soon. And for that reason, we need to start looking at a space that can accommodate the entire team. I'm really enjoying this process of touring new spaces, but it does take up time and a lot of mental energy. Also thinking about the process of having to move all of this furniture, update the addresses, update clients, it is gonna be work that will take a significant amount of time and effort. Okay, conclusion, to wrap all of this up in one sentence, here it is. I would hire the first staff member, I would generate consistent cash flow, and then I would go for the office space. It's the choice that I made, and I would make it again. A final tip is to start small. I know I just said that having to expand and move is a time burden, but losing sleep over being able to pay rent is far worse. And when you select a small space, you can still get all the benefits of conducting your meetings, building culture, and putting your business on the map. The beauty of the smaller space is that it'll be cheaper to furnish, and your renter's insurance and your utilities will actually be quite a bit less. I'm sitting here in LaunchKit's first office. It's 700 square feet. We were easily able to fit 5 full-size desks. We have our workshop table and we have our soft space back there. All right, I appreciate you sticking around this long in the video. I'll give you one last bonus tip. If you're kind of feeling like you need to bridge the gap and you're still on the fence, I would strongly consider checking out a co-working space. Before we leased the space here at 89 Ionia Avenue, LaunchKit had a few memberships at some co-working spaces. We were at Start Garden and then Work Lab. Basically, I would go here and work during the day. I'd have some meetings there. It helped give me that fulfillment of getting dressed and going to work. These memberships cost about $200 a month, so it was an excellent stepping stone before signing a lease. So there you go. That is this week's video, all about knowing when it is time to get that first office space. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you sticking around for the full video. I hope you guys learned something. It's the reason we make these videos each week, so we'll keep them coming. Thanks.